So Inter got absolutely steamrolled in that Champions League final a couple weeks ago. It wasn't a good match at literally any point. They were completely and utterly outclassed. We should have seen it coming, to be honest. The Grandpa lineup worked out fine against Barca in the end, I guess, but Inter still held 6 goals, and they only went through because Barca had to build a bare back line. Without Balde and Koundé's injuries, that tie probably turns out differently. 20 minutes of that PSG press and half the starting 11 couldn't even breathe. I swear to God, I saw Mkhitaryan's knee fall out his leg at one point. Vitinha's bubbly ass was running rings around them niggas, bruh. I deadass started feeling bad around the hour mark. They evil as hell for sending that Serbia out there against that demonic attack, bruh. He pushing 40. They should have knew what was up. Barcola literally had him interpretive dancing in the box. He had no business squaring up with them energetic-ass little boys. The ref didn't even bother adding extra time. He said, just get the fuck off the pitch. Y'all suck. PSG's slaughter in the final raised numerous other questions, though, and one of the main ones on everyone's mind is, of course, who's winning the Ballon d'Or? This has got to be one of the best years competition-wise in a little while. This is the first time we've had like 4 serious candidates in one season since what, 2018? This year we got very valid arguments coming from every direction. There's just one problem that's been bugging me throughout this entire conversation over the last week or two, and it's a problem that's become more and more prominent the last few seasons. I'm scrolling through different apps like usual, Twitter or Instagram, sometimes TikTok, and I'm seeing all these Ballon d'Or rankings and Ballon d'Or discourse, and it's generally reaching nonsensical levels. I think a lot of people have genuinely forgotten what the Ballon d'Or is. It's an award for the best individual player on the planet. The top contenders should always be the players who were individually part of the top players on the planet in that season. Instead, people are treating it like the anybody that won a lot of trophies award, and that's simply never the way it's been until the last few years, at least. I saw this one ranking that had 7 PSG players in the top 10, and it was blowing my mind. It was Dembele, Doué, Mendes, Hakimi, Kvaratskhelia, Donnarumma, and Vitinha. Then when the creator was asked about it, his response was they won the quadruple. That's just not how it works. It's not how it works. When has that ever been how it works in the history of the award? The Ballon d'Or has always leaned towards great performance in the more important competitions like the World Cup whenever it comes around, or the UCL every year, sure. But for the large majority of its history, it didn't just fill the top 10 with whoever won the most trophies that year. Yes, there's been times where a lot of players from one team made the top 10, but when you looked at those names, they were also actually some of the best players in the world as well, not just great players that were on winning teams. I'm not one of those people that's ever been like, oh my God, the Ballon d'Or is losing credibility because I was salty about someone that won. But with the way the nominees have started to be ranked, it is throwing off the prestige of the award because it's watering down the meaning of best in the world. The focus should always be the individual play, and only when you get to the top of the top players is when trophies become crucial in the decision-making. That's literally how it's officially ranked in order of importance, too. Instead, nowadays it's flipped, and people are starting with the trophies first and then individual play second. Y'all got shit all mixed up. If your first argument in a player's Ballon d'Or case is his trophy cabinet, then that shit is weak. This isn't about Dembele, by the way, because he was up there with the best of the best. He was just decent for maybe half the season, but exploded in the second half and in the most important stretch against some of the best teams from the best league in the world. He's a very valid candidate. Niggas up there talking about Hakimi, though? Are we dead ass? I hate to pick on him specifically, but it's because I responded to this post where a guy was like, let's push Hakimi for the Ballon d'Or. And I was like, why? What the fuck are you talking about? And he said, well, he was great all year and he won the treble. It's not the great award. It's the Ballon d'Or, bro. Some people complain a lot about defenders not getting treated equally to attackers when it comes to individual awards. And I hear it in some certain cases. But the fact is, in general, attackers are almost always better football players than defenders. So yeah, when it comes to an award like the Ballon d'Or, fullbacks and center backs usually aren't going to be serious candidates just because attackers are generally just better. Of course, there's plenty of examples of outliers like 2006 Cannavaro, 2019 Van Dijk, 2003 Maldini, but those were all completely unreal all-time defender seasons, and even then, only one of them actually won the award. Hakimi was great the whole season, sure, and he's a fantastic offensive fullback who's grown into being a pretty decent defensive fullback now too, but that's really it. He's simply not best player in the world level at all. Why is great player with a lot of trophies now enough to make you a top Ballon d'Or candidate? You're telling me it doesn't feel like the award is being watered down a little bit? And I don't want anybody to think this is just me hating. Go look at old Ballon d'Or rankings yourself. This wasn't a thing until very recent years when trophy logic took over the sport and this very chronically online obsession with basing every single thing off silverware infected every corner of football. Carvajal at forward doesn't happen without the colonization of trophy logic, even with the fact that last season in general was a weak season for individual brilliance. He didn't really have any argument for being anywhere near the best player in the world if we're being serious. Jorginho at 3 still itches at my brain, I'm not gonna lie, just because he simply was not the third best player in the world that season. People always take that as you saying, oh, he wasn't important or he didn't matter. No, he was pretty great for club and country and he was key in the Champions League and Euros win. that doesn't make him the third best player in the world. Julian Alvarez being seventh back in 2023 just because of the sheer number of trophies he won was low-key scandalous too. At the time, I was one of those people that was like, whatever. He scored a few important goals. I don't mind. And to be fair, it's really not as bad as the others, but the more and more this shit spreads, the more aggravating it is. People constantly compare current Ballon d'Or top 10s to old ones when they're saying, the sport fell off. But part of the reason they look so bad in comparison is because they're throwing whoever wins a few trophies or the Champions League in the top 10 now. Obviously, there also are less superstars, but that's part of the problem. If you go back to some of those past seasons and apply modern logic to them rankings, they probably come out looking wonky as fuck. Go back to 2010. Not that many people thought Snyder was the favorite at the time, despite the treble. It was more so Iniesta or Xavi who was expected to win just because of World Cup tax. Messi himself even said he was surprised that he beat those two, but if we're being real, the fact that Iniesta was hurt for a little while and only started 20 league games in Barca's title-winning season hurt him there. Messi was so individually elite that he leapfrogged the two World Cup winning midfielders that were also on his club team. You don't really understand how wide the individual gap was between Messi and everyone else that season until you go back and watch every game. Probably one of his most underrated seasons, most likely because the loss to Inter soured how people view that year. That was the peak of his out-of-possession activity too. That season and the next season, he probably ran more of those 2 years than any other year of his career. Anyways, Snyder was literally not the favorite in the conversation like people try to make it out to be. That whole 2010 treble discourse only became a much more fierce argument recently when Ronaldo fans started pushing narratives. Same thing with Messi fans when it comes to Ribéry and Bayern's treble-winning season in 2012-13 to be fair, although there was much more of a public fuss made about that one by Ribéry. He didn't waste any time complaining, while I don't think Snyder made a public statement until recently. I get that Ronaldo was trophyless, but the guy scored 69 fucking goals, and that was before he became more of a poacher too. I'd argue that season was one of his highest peaks as an overall player. The gap between him and Ribéry as individual players was monstrous. I'm not really too mad at them choosing Ronaldo's dominance over Ribéry's trophy captain. Mind you, Ribéry didn't even finish second. Messi finished second. He wasn't winning regardless, bruh. The narrative was already around, but it gained popularity the more trophy logic took over. He's still mad as shit too. He was just on Instagram venting like a week ago, and it's been over a decade. If that 2012-13 season was today, people would have Ribéry, Robin, Philipp Lahm, Thomas Muller, Neuer, and Mandzukic in the top 10 the way they're talking. Guys like Van Persie, Bale, Iniesta, Pirlo pushed out of the top 10 because of trophies. People always talk about Neymar being top 5 that year all the way from Brazil and how impressive it is and how it's sad that it probably won't happen again. And then they turn around and shove half the starting 11 of whoever won the Champions League in their top 10 ranking. It can't happen again because y'all don't care about individual talents anymore. Just trophies. Not saying there's been a talent playing outside of Europe as good as Neymar was, but even if there was, with the way people started to view the award now, I don't think it'll ever happen again regardless. That United treble season back in 1999? Only 2 United players made the top 10 despite there being plenty of elite players scattered across that team. Beckham was second and Keane was sixth. Don't let that shit have happened today or niggas would have been putting Beckham, Keane, York, Cole, Stam, Schmeichel, and Giggs all in the top 10. Rivaldo still won the award over Beckham because he was simply better that season. And that's not to say that treble-winning teams or players that happen to win huge trophies for both club and country in one season don't deserve to be ranked really high. When those players have actually been best in the world level, it's fair. When Haaland, KDB, and Rodri were all top 5 in 2023, that was very valid. When Messi, Xavi, Iniesta, and Eto'o were all top 5 in 2009, that was very valid. The problem comes when you start throwing anyone from a treble-winning team in there as long as they were good. No, I don't think Hakimi or Kvaratskhelia should be over a player that's had a season like Mo Salah. That's not shitting on their treble season in my opinion, and that's not saying they didn't have great years. I just personally can't see how people are going around with lists that have 6 or 7 PSG players in the top 10. We've lost the fucking plot, bro. Rafinha, Salah, Yamal, Mbappe because of the Golden Boot, and Pedri all got to be top 10 in my opinion. So I don't know how some of y'all are managing to fit over half of PSG's starting 11 in there. In my opinion, the only genuine candidates that actually have a shot at the award are Dembele, Rafinha, Yamal, and Salah, if we're being serious. I've honestly seen some of the worst and most disingenuous arguments ever these past couple weeks. Nobody actually cares about talking about the sport anymore. It's purely agendas and recency bias. That's it. Only whatever you've done in the past 3 weeks matters. It's like football fans go through a cycle where every once a month their minds get erased and they only remember what a player has done the last 4 weeks and that's it. And then that whole Yamal 9 league goals thing is killing me because that's such a specific and narrowed down thing to judge a player off of. Not even off of goal contributions total in the league or league play in general, just league goals. Playmaking doesn't exist. The other competitions don't exist. Watching actual games doesn't exist. I always complain about how boring a lot of football discourse is because everybody just wants to be an unfunny troll or repeat the same tired narratives or jokes. But it's only getting worse the more the sport returns to its previous level of talent after those few down seasons because now there's actual arguments to be made. I'm not gonna lie, I did get a little burnt out from football discourse. That's why I ain't make a video for a little while. That was just for like a week or two though. I'm chilling now. Let me know what y'all think. I'd love to hear y'all opinions. Who is your Ballon d'Or winner? Who do you think has the best argument? Catch y'all soon.